Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about something that almost everyone struggles with but rarely admits out loud. You sit down with a long to-do list, full of plans and good intentions. You tell yourself this is the day you finally get everything done. But somehow hours pass, and the list is still staring back at you. Tasks that should take minutes feel heavy. Your brain starts inventing excuses. You scroll on your phone for just a second. And before you know it, the day is gone and the list is untouched. If this feels familiar, you're not lazy and you're not broken. Your brain is simply wired to resist effort when it feels overwhelming. The problem isn't that you don't want to work. The problem is that your to-do list has become a wall instead of a doorway. And today I'm going to show you a simple technique that turns that wall into an open path. It's called the 10-minute rule, and it has the power to completely change how you approach work, productivity, and even motivation itself. Think about the last task you avoided. Maybe it was replying to emails, cleaning your room, studying for an exam, or starting a big project. Notice how your mind didn't just see the task. It imagined the entire effort from beginning to end. It pictured hours of work, stress, and boredom. Your brain treated it like a mountain instead of a single step. And when something feels like a mountain, your instinct is to avoid it. The 10-minute rule interrupts that instinct. Instead of telling yourself you must finish the whole task, you make a much smaller promise. You say, I will work on this for just 10 minutes. Not an hour. Not until it's done. Just 10 minutes. That's it. Anyone can tolerate 10 minutes. Even on your worst day, 10 minutes feels manageable. It lowers the emotional resistance that stops you from starting. Starting is the hardest part of any task. Once you begin, something interesting happens. Your brain shifts from resistance to engagement. You enter what psychologists call the activation phase. Momentum starts building. Often, after the first 10 minutes, you don't want to stop. You've already invested energy, and continuing feels easier than quitting. The 10-minute rule tricks your brain into crossing that critical starting line. But even if you do stop after 10 minutes, you've still won. You've chipped away at the task. You've proven to yourself that action is possible. And small actions repeated daily create massive results over time. Productivity isn't about heroic bursts of effort. It's about consistent, repeatable steps that move you forward. Let's imagine a real scenario. You wake up and see a messy desk that you've been meaning to clean for weeks. Every time you look at it, you feel a mix of guilt and annoyance. Today, instead of saying, I need to clean the whole thing, you set a timer for 10 minutes. You start sorting papers, throwing away trash, organizing a few items. When the timer rings, your desk is already noticeably better. You feel lighter. And most days, you'll choose to keep going because progress feels good. This rule works because it removes pressure. Pressure is the silent killer of productivity. When you demand perfection or huge outcomes from yourself, your brain rebels. It sees the task as a threat to comfort and safety. By shrinking the commitment to 10 minutes, you create a safe entry point. There's no intimidation, only a simple invitation to begin. Another powerful aspect of the 10-minute rule is that it builds trust with yourself. Many people struggle with productivity because they've broken too many promises to themselves. They plan ambitious schedules and then abandon them. Over time, their brain stops believing their intentions. The 10-minute rule is different. It's realistic and achievable. When you consistently follow through, you rebuild self-confidence. You become someone who does what they say they will do. There's also a hidden emotional benefit. Tasks often carry emotional weight. A work assignment might trigger fear of failure. Studying might remind you of past struggles. Cleaning might feel like admitting you let things slip. The 10-minute rule sidesteps these emotions by focusing purely on action. You don't need to solve your feelings first. You simply move your hands and let action lead the way. Consider how this applies to big dreams. Writing a book, learning a language, getting fit, or starting a business can feel overwhelming because the end goal is so large. But if you dedicate just 10 focused minutes each day, you create a habit of progress. 10 minutes of writing becomes pages over weeks. 10 minutes of exercise becomes strength over months. The scale of your dream stops being scary because your daily commitment is small and steady. Some people worry that 10 minutes isn't enough to make real change. But they underestimate the compound effect of consistency. 10 minutes every day equals over 60 hours a year. That's 60 hours invested in a skill, a project, or a goal that previously received zero attention. Most people fail not because they lack talent, but because they never start consistently. The beauty of the 10-minute rule is its flexibility. You can apply it anywhere. If you're procrastinating on studying, promise 10 minutes of focused review. If you're avoiding a workout, commit to 10 minutes of movement. If your inbox is overflowing, spend 10 minutes clearing messages. Each small session reduces the mental weight of the task and brings you closer to completion. There's also a psychological principle at play called the Zeigarnik effect. It suggests that once we start a task, our brain feels a natural urge to finish it. Unfinished tasks stay active in our memory. By using the 10-minute rule to begin, you activate this internal drive. Your mind starts nudging you to continue, making it easier to return to the task later. Let's talk about distractions, because they are the biggest enemy of those first 10 minutes. When you commit to a 10-minute session, treat it as sacred. Silence notifications. Put your phone out of reach. Close unnecessary tabs. You're not trying to work forever. You're protecting a tiny window of focus. Knowing it's temporary makes it easier to resist distractions. Another key element is celebrating completion. When the timer ends, acknowledge what you did. Even if it seems small, recognize the effort. This positive reinforcement trains your brain to associate starting with a sense of accomplishment. Over time, the act of beginning becomes less painful and more rewarding. You might be surprised how often the 10-minute rule leads to extended work sessions. Many people report that once they're in motion, they naturally continue for 30 minutes, an hour, or more. But the magic is that you never force it. The extension is voluntary. That sense of choice preserves motivation and prevents burnout. There will be days when you truly stop after 10 minutes, and that's perfectly fine. Life has rhythms. Energy fluctuates. The goal isn't to squeeze maximum output from every moment. The goal is to maintain a reliable habit of engagement. Even on low-energy days, 10 minutes keeps the chain unbroken. To make this rule even more effective, pair it with a clear starting action. Instead of vaguely saying, "work on the project," define the first step. Open the document. Read the first page. Wash the first dish. Specific actions remove ambiguity and reduce hesitation. Your brain responds better to concrete instructions than abstract goals. It also helps to stack the 10-minute rule onto a routine. Attach it to an existing habit like morning coffee or evening wind-down time. When the cue appears, you automatically begin your 10-minute session. Habit stacking turns productivity into a natural extension of your day rather than a separate chore. Over time, you'll notice a shift in your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who procrastinates and start seeing yourself as someone who takes action. Identity change is powerful because it influences future behavior. When action becomes part of who you are, consistency feels effortless. The 10-minute rule also teaches an important lesson about motivation. Many people wait to feel inspired before they start. They believe motivation must come first. In reality, motivation often follows action. When you begin working, progress generates energy. You feel capable and engaged, which fuels further effort. The rule leverages this cycle by prioritizing action over emotion. Imagine applying this approach to every area where you feel stuck. Instead of being paralyzed by the size of your to-do list, you simply pick one item and give it 10 minutes. One by one, tasks lose their power over you. Your list transforms from a source of stress into a series of manageable steps. There's a quiet confidence that grows from this practice. You learn that you don't need perfect conditions to start. You don't need endless time or ideal motivation. You only need a willingness to show up for 10 minutes. That mindset reduces fear and increases resilience. As weeks pass, the cumulative impact becomes visible. Projects move forward. Spaces become organized. Skills improve. Most importantly, your relationship with work changes. Instead of seeing tasks as burdens, you view them as opportunities for small wins. Each session is a chance to prove your capability. If you ever feel resistance creeping back in, return to the simplicity of the rule. Don't negotiate with yourself about finishing everything. Just start the timer and begin. Let the process carry you. Trust that even minimal effort is meaningful when repeated consistently. Remember that productivity isn't about punishing yourself. It's about creating systems that support your natural psychology. The 10-minute rule works because it respects your limits while gently expanding them. It invites progress without demanding perfection. So the next time your to-do list feels overwhelming, don't stare at it and hope motivation appears. Choose one task. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Start moving. Allow those minutes to be focused and intentional. When the timer rings, decide freely whether to continue. Either way, you've taken a step forward. And those steps add up. They build momentum, confidence, and a sense of control over your time. They remind you that big achievements are nothing more than collections of small actions performed consistently. If you commit to practicing the 10-minute rule every day, you'll begin to notice a transformation. Tasks that once felt impossible become approachable. Procrastination loses its grip. Your to-do list stops being a source of anxiety and starts becoming a roadmap for progress. You don't need complicated productivity systems or endless planning. You need a simple doorway into action. The 10-minute rule is that doorway. Walk through it daily, and watch how your life gradually aligns with your intentions. Thank you for spending these minutes with me today. If this idea resonated with you, try it immediately after this video. Pick one small task and give it 10 focused minutes. Experience the shift for yourself. Because sometimes, the smallest commitment is the one that changes everything.